Soul Night Live, another daytime edition. This is number 18. And this morning I have a quick call with Rick Wakeman, the legendary keyboardist from Yes and many solo ventures of his own as well.
Hello.
Good morning, Rick. This is Sean at Progressive Ears.
Hello, mate. How are you, sir?
I can't complain. It's a good morning here. What time is it over there?
It is 5 o'clock
5 o'clock. Okay, just
in the evening.
okay. Getting close to dinner
Yeah,
time.
5 o'clock in the evening, and it's a beautiful evening. Quite hot, about 20 degrees, which is really nice, and very pleasant, and can't complain.
Excellent. Well, thanks for taking your time out of your busy evening to speak
Hey,
with
no
us.
problem at all, sir. No problem at all.
Okay.
How's the lockdown affecting you?
Well, thankfully, I'm a musician, and I've discovered that most of us are kind of undeterred. If anything, we have more time to work on music than ever. So I'm making the best of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And I started doing this.
yeah. But the same here.
I've started doing this talk show back in March, speaking with different
Yeah.
luminaries like yourself. So that's kept me pretty busy. We had a great interview. We spoke with Derek Shulman Friday night. Fantastic
Oh, nice.
interview with him. And last night we spoke to Lawrence Juber from Wings. You remember that last lineup around 79?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, great guy. So many stories. It was fascinating weekend. So to cap it off and speak to you is
Oh,
a real
brilliant.
treat. Am I right? We have about 20 minutes ish, or
Yeah, so I could do a bit because I've got another one, another person to speak to. So yeah, we've got half an hour. I can because they always allow a bit of a buffer.
okay? Yeah, I don't want to,
And I talk a load of rubbish anyway.
well, it's never rubbish when it comes from you. Okay, well,
Right, good, good.
so tell us, how are you spending your days lately during this unusual time?
Well, it's been a really strange time, of course, because I had after finishing the album, I had a load of concerts planned for America, South America, all over Europe, Eastern Europe, and they just all vanished because, as you're aware, all concerts that was it. So suddenly I'm going, okay. So what do I do now? I suppose the thing that's been interesting is that I have been in the process of moving house, and we were just about to. The builders had just started, and the decorators in the new house when the lockdown happened. So I suddenly find myself surrounded by boxes in the house we live in, and a house which is waiting to be renovated to move into. So what I did do, I thought, okay, try and make the most use of this. So I moved two pianos into the new house, which is empty. And so what I've been doing, I've been just driving to the new house, which is only 40 minutes away, and in total isolation, I just sit at the piano and play around, and it's been brilliant. It's been so nice. I've got a kettle down there, so I can make myself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, play the piano, write down loads of music. I've got bundles of manuscript paper that I've written stuff on, and it's right on a river estuary by the sea. So to take a break, I can walk down by the sea, don't see anybody, which is great, and then come out. And I've been doing that off and on top of delivering my mother-in-law's food because she's in a total lockdown, not been allowed out. So I sort of get loads of food, drop it at her front door, bang on the door, and run away.
I see. So have you ever done a concept album about the sea? If not, this might be a good time to put one together with a view like that.
About the sea,
Yeah.
do you know what? That's where I've moved to is nothing short of beautiful. And do you know what? That is not a bad idea at all. I mean, it's quite an artistic area where it is, and it's been. The composer Benjamin Britten lives just up the road. Also, some great British artists like John Constable and Gainsborough. They're both literally 15 minutes away. And it's a big artistic area, lots of actors, painters, and musicians live in the area, because it really is very, very inspiring. And that is, that is not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea at all.
Can I suggest a title of Shanties for the Modern Day?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Right? But definitely the idea of writing music theory is a great one. And that is definitely something. I've just written it down, funny enough. So definitely that is something to think about. That's for sure.
Okay, well, give me a tip of the hat if you decide to use it later.
I certainly
I'd
will.
love
And
that.
that's a promise. I promise. When I do, I will.
No problem. Well, you have a brand new album right now, which is fantastic. I got a chance to hear it already, and I think anybody that loves Six Wives would really like this. It's it's different, but it's all instrumental in the same way, and it's full of amazing Moog, just adorning it all. It's great. So I was wondering, what was your inspiration?
Thank you.
And why Mars? Jupiter's looking a little lonely today, so I was wondering.
Yeah, and Pluto, ever since it got relegated to a dwarf planet, that's not very happy either.
Yeah.
Although, just going forward about Mars, it's very interesting. I mean, another rocket headed off for Mars today. I think gets there February. To do some weather checking. But okay, to go back to the question, why this and why Mars? I wanted to do another prog album for quite a long time, but I just can't do a prog album where I need the title first to give me the inspiration. I can't write and then give it a title. I need something that excites me to do whatever. And to be brutally honest with you, the last few piano tours that I've done, the number of people, and I lie not, which goes into the many hundreds over the last few years, who've come and spoken to me afterwards. So many have all said, why don't you do another prog album, an instrumental like Six Wives or Criminal Record or that kind of. And I've given them the same answer. I said, well, I would love to when the inspiration comes, but I can't just churn something out for the sake of doing it. And they went, oh, okay. And a few years ago, going back 5 years, my dear friend Brian May introduced me to Professor Stephen Hawkins, because Brian and Stephen and another marvellous man called Garrick Israelian, who is the man who proved and discovered black holes, a real rocket scientist. He's an Armenian man. And I was introduced to them because they hold a festival every 2 years called Starmus. And Starmus is a mixture of music and all things astrophysics and the stars. And Brian said, look, we know how much you love space and you're interested in it. Why don't you come along and play at the end of one of the festivals? Because we always have somebody different to play. And I said, okay. And it was held out in the Canary Islands. And I went along and I got to meet Stephen Hawkins, and I got to meet Garrick, and I got to meet a load of people. And it was the most remarkable festival, and there were a lot of astronauts there. And then I was asked, moving forward a little bit, about 4 years ago, I was asked by Garrick, he said, will you come along and play in Zurich in 2019 at the Starmus Festival, because we're celebrating 50 years of man landing and walking on the moon. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. So I did that. And that was done with Hans Zimmer. I did Brian May, Steve Vai. It was an amazing event. And all the surviving astronauts who'd walked on the moon were there as well. And it was just phenomenal.
Wow.
And before that, I've been talking to Garrick, and Garrick said to me, what's your plans now? And I said, well, I need to do a new album, but I can't find the inspiration I'm looking for. I said, it's really frustrating, because if I get something that really excites me, I'm off and running. And he said, well, here's something to think about. He said, in 2021, it's the 50th anniversary of the first a successful space mission to Mars. And I went, wow. And he said, you know a bit about Mars, I'm sure. I said, well, I know a bit. He said, well, let me just give you a brief potted history of Mars, which he did. And he said, Mars, some of the photographs that we've got back now are so amazing. He said, they look like you're there. It's quite incredible. He said, and you consider that 2 million years ago, Mars had oceans, it had rivers, it had an atmosphere, although much, much less oxygen than we have on Earth. He said it was the closest thing to Earth possible. He said, so maybe David Bowie was right.
Exactly.
And I went, that is fantastic. He said, let me send you a load of pictures that you can't get normally on internet or in books. He said, I have access to all sorts of things from NASA. And he sent me these photographs. I also have friends at NASA in Florida. They sent me stuff as well. And I did it, and all I could think about was music while I'm looking and reading. And I just collected an immense amount of material. And then just picked on places that really on the planet that just fascinated me for various reasons. I printed off loads of pictures and with photographs, and then I just literally sat at the piano, because I still write everything at the piano, with manuscript everywhere, with pictures of the planet everywhere, and looking at them and just being totally engrossed, almost as if I was there and writing the music, and at the same time making notes about how I think it should sound, how I think when I came to record, how it should be done, and which was also very helpful and good. And then in between times when I wasn't actually writing and playing, what I did was I went back over some earlier albums, like The Six Wives, like No Earthly Connection, even though No Earthly Connection was not an instrumental album, going over and picking out sounds that I really liked. Thought, oh, well, why didn't I ever make more of that? For example, in No Earthly Connection, the use of the mellotron flutes. And I thought, I use it so differently. I know, why didn't I, why haven't I used that before? That would be so good for this and this and this and this. And I just kept picking out ideas of sounds that I really liked and styles. Pieced all the bits of music together, and then went into the studio with my co-producer and engineer Eric Jordan, and away we went and spent a solid 2 months just working on it. And if things didn't work, we didn't try to repair them, we just threw them away, working on the principle that if it doesn't work first time round and we can't see how it can work, then it's never going to work. And we did that until we got all of the pieces together as we wanted them, and at the same time my guitarist, drummer, Dave Calhoun guitarist, Lee Pomeroy bass, and Ash Stone drums were working as well at the same time. At one time we had 4 different studios going with bits and pieces, but all connected and working up, and it was just so exciting, because I can, it's almost like a bit of a jigsaw. If you put the pictures down of the different places but not tell me where they are, different pictures, and then I can piece the music together straight away. It's quite fantastic. I've not really been able to do that since Criminal Record, but that was different because that was all about people as against places, and the same with the Six Wives. But it was it did prove to me that without the inspirational concept, I can't really write concept albums properly. I can't write something and then throw a concept at it.
Okay, I can see that. Well, I think it's already making great waves in the prog scene and otherwise. And I understand you sold out of the first run, and there's like a new one coming up that's got different distribution for the States. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is, when we put it together, we didn't have distribution for America. That's quite true. But it got, even though it's not officially released till August, we did special editions and things that went out. I mean, I was amazed. They sold out immediately, and then the next wave, that sold out immediately. And one of the great helps was the amazing amount of social media, shall we say, working in its favour, for people to say some really lovely things about the album, and that fueled everything an awful lot. And ironically, a lot of people, especially in America, who'd spoken to me on tour saying, we really would like an instrumental prog album, thank you for doing it, which was really nice. And then we started getting interest from other countries around the world, and it was saying we would like to have this, and that's why we put it with Snapper in America, and other countries, and it's really nice, the response it's getting, because it's a strange world at the moment for music, as you know, because the big music stores have gone. We are heavily reliant upon online or some independent stores and the few stores that have survived everywhere. But it seems to have gathered an amazing momentum, which, I'll be honest, has taken me a bit by surprise. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm very proud of the album. I really am, in every respect. So for it to get the reaction it's had, it genuinely means an awful lot to me. But I am quite surprised.
Okay. Well, excellent. Okay, well, thanks
Pleasantly surprised, I should say.
Well, it's fantastic, so I urge everyone to get a copy ASAP. So it looks like we have about 10 more minutes, and I've probably got 6 or 7 questions, so I'm going to try and go through these really quick. And
no, just keep going. Don't worry.
Okay.
Keep going.
You sure? Okay, well, you let me know. But I don't want to dwell on any of these too long. ARW. It was wonderful while it lasted, but is it safe to say that is pretty much the end of it at this point?
Do you know what? I've learned over the years never to say never. I've been caught out so many times by saying never, no chance, never, no chance.
Sure.
I mean, I'm in touch with both John and Trevor. The reason things ground to a halt was, ironically, not musically, but it was down to personal issues that hit both John and myself. John's wife was hit with cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So it was extremely difficult to go on the road. Thankfully, she's all clear and good and healthy and that now.
Oh, good.
And then last year, sorry, not last year, the year before, when we were just about, well, in fact, no, it was last year, what am I talking about? We were just about due to go out on tour, and my wife was hit with the big C.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And she was diagnosed the day before I was due to fly to start the tour.
Oh.
It was unbelievably difficult. John and Trev and their respective wives, Janie and Shelley, were unbelievably supportive, as was the promoter and our agents and things. But it's extremely difficult because we had plans afterwards to. The tour was cut very short. We did, I think, 3 weeks, and we were meant to do 8 or 9. Luckily, only the first 3 weeks have been confirmed. I came home. There was a year's worth of treatment. That's why there were no other tours that followed on. And also the plans to maybe do some music and do some other stuff. That was just all went by the board.
Oh,
as
absolutely.
You can imagine.
I can imagine. Priorities totally change.
So what happened was, of course, everybody, in order to pay the bills or whatever you like to put it, just did solo things on there just in order to go to work and to do things, which included me. I could work in England because then I could be with my wife. My wife got the all clear, amazingly, which was fantastic at Christmas.
Wonderful.
Last Christmas, which was the best Christmas present I could ever have.
Absolutely.
But of course, with that, what would have happened to me and what had happened to John and Jane, that had pretty much hit nearly 2 years of ARW. And so it's getting a momentum and things going again. Now the interesting thing is, I thought there was no chance of a farewell tour. We always talked of doing a really good farewell tour where we could say a proper goodbye to all the fantastic fans and Yes fans who've come along and seen us. And I think that we all sort of felt that we left it too late. Having said that, I don't think we have, and I don't think John and Trev think we have. And so it would not surprise me if maybe at the end of next year there wasn't a sort of a thank you tour, something like that.
Okay.
I'd love to see it happen. I really would. I loved playing with Trev and John, and also with Lou Molino and Lee Pomeroy, who is just a phenomenal player. And we had so much fun on stage. And you know, I'm not too proud to say it was a sensational band. And when it was playing at the top of its game, it was brilliant. And when it wasn't even at the top of its game, it was still pretty decent, you know.
Darn right.
So I miss playing with John and Trev. It was great. Loved it to bits. So is it dead? I don't know. I think there's still a little heartbeat on the monitor.
Okay, well, we will cross our fingers and hope that comes to fruition. Just a couple more questions. Speaking of fingers, we had a question about hands in performing and getting older, and I was just wondering, any advice for musicians, and have you ever run into any issues, arthritis or anything like that?
Yeah, I've had ongoing rheumatism in my hands for 30 years nearly now. I take a lot of marine fish oil, which helps, but there was one period of time when I was really struggling, and I went to a specialist, and he did lots of tests, and I went back to see him at the end, and I said, well, he said, you have got problems, but he said, here's what my suggestion is. He said, how much do you play a day? And I said, well, if it's a tour or whatever, I said it could be the 3 hours. 3 hours of playing a day. If I'm in the studio, it could be more. I said, if I'm at home, it could be half an hour, 10 minutes. I said, well, if I'm traveling, it's not much. And some days it might be an hour, some days it's less. He said, okay. He said, obviously the studio and the touring thing, that looks after itself. He said, when you're at home, I said, yeah. He said, play more. I said, what? He said, play more. He said, because you're getting to an age where your muscles and that, they'll start to get tired, because he said, you know, you're getting older. And he said, so the way to keep everything as flexible as possible is to play as much as possible. And he said, and the other thing as well is if you're traveling and you've got a day or 2 days where you can't play, he said, make sure when you start playing again, you build it up gradually, so you can build it up really well and play. He said that'll keep you your dexterity if you do that. So that's what I do. And I must admit, after, if I've got 4 or 5 shows in a row, and especially if they're the piano shows, which are hard to, if I'm doing, you know, like 2 hour, 2.5 hour shows of pretty much solid playing, if I'm doing, say, 4 or 5 days on the trot, on the 5th or 6th day when it's a day off, I will admit my hands do ache. They really, really do ache. So I try and look after them as best as I can, and you know, because they're very, very important to me, obviously.
Absolutely.
But the fact of life is, as you get older, depending on what you do for a living, like sportsmen, like soccer players, their legs go.
Sure.
So many have to have knee replacements and hip replacements, you know, because they're doing 100 times more work than the average person does.
Absolutely.
And that's the same with a musician with his fingers. So I look after them the best I can. I'm 71, and I think my hands are probably about 240 years old.
Well, they're pretty spry for 200-year-old hands, I gotta say. We'd never know the difference on the record. Okay, quick question. Did they really put seals
Yeah.
in did they really put seals and crofts tapes in your Mellotron back in the 70s?
No.
Okay, because we heard that story where Steve and the guys like swapped out all the tapes in your Mellotron one day, and you came in and it was playing top 40 music when you hit the keys.
Oh, that's very possible. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember the exact time to be if I'm brutally honest, but that does sound very much like something that would happen.
Okay, fair enough,
Yeah.
because that's a legendary story that's just this side of the Curry episode. So, very
Oh,
good.
there's been there are a few stories that have been floating around there. No, that's all good. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, the trouble is, you sit down somebody and you never remember them until somebody reminds you. You know.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today. I look forward to talking to you
That's all right.
soon.
Thank you.
Stay safe and healthy, and thank you so much.
Yeah, and you.
Will do. Absolutely.
Great. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care, Rick.
Bye.
We'll see you.